The world of venture capital is one of the most misunderstood industries in the world, at least when it comes to the general public. And this whole domain of venture capital seems mysterious from the outside because it is wrapped in a lot of jargon. The whole domain, the whole business of venture capital, it works on top of insider networks. The core strength of this business is the networking, and that is one of the reason it is very hard to get into VC, break into VC as they call it, and also understand the whole ecosystem. Of course, there are a lot of podcasts, there are a lot of articles, and there are a lot of people talking about the whole ecosystem and the business, but there has never been an instance where someone just sat down and just tried to explain every single concept, every single workflow, and every single entity of venture capital. And that is one of the reasons I am making this playlist. Throughout this whole playlist, we'll explore different angles of venture capital, and we'll try to cover end to end everything you need to know. Either you are a founder or you are a wannabe VC or just curious about the whole ecosystem. Think about venture capital as the financial engine that turns great ideas, or in fact crazy ideas, into world-changing companies. So at one side we have, let me change the color here. At one side we have ideas, and there are a lot of procedures happening here. And the other side we have, let's say, unicorns or IPOs, right? World-changing companies, basically. Every single app in your phone, and every single breakthrough medical device, or every electric vehicle on the road that started somewhere, all of them, or at least most of them, started with someone willing to bet their money on an unproven idea, an idea for which the market might be there and might not be there. And that someone is what we call a VC, or a venture capitalist. Now, this is where the misconception comes when people are talking about venture capitalism. The whole business, the whole area of venture capitalism is not just to throw money around. It's about understanding the patterns of the market, the patterns of the businesses over the last few decades, managing risk, and building relationships that span over decades. The best kind of venture capitalists, they are part detective, part therapist, and part fortune teller, because you have to see the future, you have to predict the future and bet on those ideas which are going to change the future. You need to spot trends before they even happen, before anyone else notices, and you have to evaluate founders when they are just getting started and help their companies grow from garage startups to billion-dollar enterprises. That's what, as a VC, you will do. We are going to talk about venture capital as both art and science. The science part involves things like financial analysis, legal structures, and portfolio management. These are teachable skills with right and wrong answers. But the art part, this involves things like pattern recognition, relationship building, and intuitive judgment. These skills, of course, develop through experiences, but they can be accelerated a little bit if you are learning from others' experiences, or if you have the theory down. And that's the plan with this whole playlist. Now, what are the things that we are going to talk about? First, financial foundations. This comes first because everything else builds on it. You learn how VC funds work economically, why the math of the VC economics makes sense despite the high failure rates, and how return flows through complex legal structure. We'll also cover valuation methodologies, but more importantly, we'll explain when and how to apply them. Financial modeling, of course, matters, but understanding the assumptions behind these models matters more. Second, we are going to talk about deal flow and sourcing. Now, this represents the lifeblood of any successful VC fund. You will discover how top VCs build networks that consistently generates high quality investment opportunities. Now, we are not going to talk about having the most amount of connections. The focus will be to have the right connections and how to maintain them effectively and how to use them for your own advantage and the other party, of course. We'll cover both the traditional strategies and the modern digital strategies using social media. Next, we are going to talk about company valuation. Now, this might sound like the core of the whole venture capital business, but this is just one of the component. You'll learn about systematic frameworks for analyzing markets, teams, and business models. But more importantly, you'll understand how these frameworks they break down in edge cases and when to trust your intuition over these financial analysis. Now, deal structuring and negotiation, this particular property, this determines whether your good investments, they can become your great returns. We'll cover everything from basic term sheets to complex multi-stage structures. You'll not just learn what these terms are, what they mean, but also how they affect the outcomes for all the parties involved. Parties like the entrepreneur, the VC, the LPs, etc. All the entities that are involved in a certain deal. We are also going to talk about portfolio management. Now, this separates good VCs from the great ones because writing checks is the easy part, but helping companies succeed, that is hard. You will discover how successful VCs add value beyond just the money part, beyond just the capital, from things like strategic guidance and operational support and business development and all these things. Right? You're not just bringing money into the table, you're also bringing your experience, your skills, and your network. We are going to talk about fund operations, everything from LP fundraising. LP means limited partners. We are going to talk a lot about that. LP fundraising to regulatory compliance and performance reporting and etc. All these operational details, they might sound boring, but they are what separate successful funds from the failed experiments. And beyond this, a lot of other things and real world examples. Now, from the next video, we'll start with the history of venture capital. But before that, I just want to give a disclaimer that everything that you watch in this playlist, and in fact, this whole channel, this is purely for educational purposes. You should not take your learnings from this and apply it directly to your investment deals and so on. Whatever we talk about, whatever I am talking about in this playlist and all the videos in this channel, they are purely from education, from books, from reading articles, from following people, from reading about people, from reading about companies, case studies, and a lot of different materials. But still, at the end of the day, they are from educational materials. And that is the reason this whole channel is also going to be educational. It's not an investment advisory kind of channel. It's just so that you can learn and you can satisfy your curiosity about a domain which is not that much discussed, which is mostly kept in the dark by the gatekeepers, because it's mostly either you have to be a wealthy person or you have to do things like MBA from Stanford, IITs, or you have to have a massive exit from a previous startup and now you can invest that money and become a VC yourself. If you are not in one of these groups, it becomes very hard to have an insider knowledge or a knowledge which is comprehensive enough to understand the business, to understand the ecosystem. So again, that is the whole idea of making this playlist. These are going to be at least around 100 videos where we'll demystify and explain every single thing surrounding venture capital.